The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NFL Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NFL from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NFL Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NFL.
An ugly win, still a win for the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football against the Carolina Panthers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast.
20-9, the final croc as the 49ers defeat the Carolina Panthers. And despite 3 interceptions thrown by Brock Purdy, I think this was one of those games. And look, Purdy still threw the ball 32 times in this game, only for 193 yards, a touchdown, 3 interceptions. Not his best game. I want to talk about some of these interceptions. And Kyle actually had some comments about those interceptions on his way out to halftime. And I think it's a really important conversation to have about Brock Purdy and what it means and why it's not a big deal, but why it's still part of Brock Purdy's game. But the big picture here for me, Croc, in this one, watching this game was, I think at a certain point, and I think probably everybody watching the game, all the 49ers fans, probably a lot of Panthers fans as well, watching this game, kind of started to realize, look, I don't think you have to get cute. Just turn around and hand the ball off and leave with a dub. I think was kind of the vibe that you started to feel around this football game, because I think the Carolina Panthers were a team that, while they were in the playoff conversation at 6-5 and they deserved to be there record-wise, they're not that good. And I'm watching this team, and it's like, you get into the football game, and it's like, throw 5 interceptions. I don't care. I'm not afraid of the Carolina Panthers. What is Bryce Young going to do to you? He did hit the 1 touchdown pass to Shedeur McMillan, but that was only 1 of 2 catches for Shedeur McMillan in this football game. And they just didn't threaten the 49ers in a way that you felt like, oh man, this game could get out of hand. Even with the interceptions, the 49ers, it never felt like this game was going to be a problem for them really from the start, after that really long first drive where they gave the ball to Christian McCaffrey like 9 times and then finished it off with a Juwan Jennings touchdown. It just never felt, even with 3, usually you would say, okay, your quarterback throws 3 interceptions, this game could go sideways on you. It never felt like they were in danger at all at any point in this game.
Never felt like the 49ers were in danger. And, man, talk about that first drive real quick. I mean, I think the execution was essentially at an all-time high. They were in very situational, or they played really good situational football on that drive, taking what the defense gave them. I really like the Christian McCaffrey dumping off to him on the edge. He picks up a first down, right? Gets to the sticks. There was a lot of that. And then to finish it off with Juwan Jennings catching the ball, breaking multiple tackles and running into the end zone. I'm like, okay, 49ers are setting the tone for how they're going to play. We're going to take what you give us. We're going to be more physical than you. We're going to finish plays, and we're just going to drive it down your throats. And I thought that was awesome. And then after that, certain things started kind of getting away from them a little bit. And you started to see offensively some things maybe not quite go as planned. And even within that, I thought the defense did a terrific job early in this game, getting the ball back for the 49ers and keeping the Panthers off the board to where the 49ers can still kind of play whatever style of game that they wanted to play. So I would have liked to see a little bit more of the first drive throughout the game. And I saw a video, I think it was on Instagram, and it was somebody interviewing a head coach. And it was like, hey, why don't teams do their first scripted plays, right? Like those first 10 to 15 plays that are scripted. Why don't they run that script back if it works? I think this would have been a good time for the 49ers to do that in this game.
I talk about that all the time. Like, turn it upside down, maybe running backwards or something. Just run the same plays that worked really well. And part of it might be the order that they're in is part of it too. But yeah, I'm with you on that. And they just ran right down the field on the Carolina Panthers and scored. And then again, despite the Brock Purdy interceptions, things did not get away from the 49ers. I want to hold off on the Brock Purdy conversation because I think first game ball has to go to Christian McCaffrey. He got the ball 30 times again. Look, game ball to whatever happened, whatever treatment he got in Germany last year, right? I don't know if that's the secret, but like I say it every single week. I don't know if he can handle this workload. It's kind of crazy. but they're leaning on him and they're giving him everything, and it's working right now. And so, and I understood it a little bit more earlier on in the year when there was no Pearsall, no George Kittle. It's like, what else do? You got to give the ball to somebody, and you're missing just about everybody. At this point in the season, 24 carries for Christian McCaffrey, 89 yards, again, 3.7 yards per carry, which is his average on the year. So nothing spectacular in the run game, but he's handling the workload, and he had the score on the ground. He had 7 more catches for 53 yards. So again, over 100 yards from scrimmage again for the 10th out of 11 times this year, and or 10th out of 12 times this year. 12 games, right? 8 and 4, yeah, 12 games this year. 10 times he's gone over 100 total yards, and the touchdown run. So game ball to Christian McCaffrey right off the bat. But I think game ball to the offensive line in this one, Croc, because we haven't been super glowing about the offensive line this year, and they really cleared a path, especially on that touchdown run. They kept Brock Purdy clean despite the picks. This wasn't him running for his life. 0 sacks given up in this game. 1 sack total, which is kind of what we expected with 2 teams that were the worst in the league and in the pass rush department. Bryce Young sacked once by Cleveland Farrell. Brock Purdy sacked 0 times. The 49ers were able to handle things on the ground. And not only did Christian McCaffrey carry the ball 24 times, but Brock Purdy had 6 carries himself, and Brian Robinson had 7 carries. He was over 5 yards per carry, 7 for 40 yards there. So really just pounding the rock in this one. And it's always easy to do that when you're ahead of the sticks and when you're ahead on the scoreboard. But I thought the offensive line played really well. And I don't think it's necessarily just because Ben Barch is back and kind of been a solidifying left guard for the 49ers, but I feel like Dominic Pooney has gotten healthier as the season has gone along, and they're probably playing their best football up front right now.
Yeah, no, the 49ers play very well up front, especially kind of opening up some of these run games, or at least giving the 49ers running backs some opportunities to at least get to the line of scrimmage without making contact with the defender. And you saw that early and often. I really loved the way that Brian Robinson ran the ball in this game. He was a very physical back. There were several times where he was getting hit at the line of scrimmage, and I'm thinking like, okay, like that's it, right? He's getting hit right around the line of scrimmage, and he kind of spins off, forges his way forward for another few yards. And you saw that with his 7 carries for 40 yards in this game. We've talked a lot about the split between the 2 running backs, the amount of carries and touches Christian McCaffrey is getting. I believe he had 9 or 10 touches on the first initial drive, so he's touching the ball a ton right off the bat. But would have liked to see Robinson get a little bit more involved. If Christian McCaffrey gets 24 carries, can we take about 5 of those away and give about 5 to Brian Robinson? So now Robinson's around 12 and McCaffrey around 19. I think that would have been a little bit better balance to continue to try to keep Christian McCaffrey fresh, because at this point, the 49ers are playing for the playoffs, and you want Christian McCaffrey to be as protected as possible.
Yeah, I mean, Christian McCaffrey leads the league in carries alone, and that's not even counting the touches he gets as being the 49ers by far leading receiver as well. And in the chat, someone said, "Stop playing our stars in trash time." And I've talked about this with McCaffrey, especially. It's like, man, he's handled it so far, but can he continue to handle it? 30 touches a game is a lot. That's a workload that a lot of guys can't handle. Christian McCaffrey, with his injury history, and in some cases, I think it's not the smartest thing to do. And at a certain point in the game, I'm kind of with you on that point, that just like, you could filter in some more Brian Robinson, right? End of the game, you're up multiple scores, 3-4 minutes left in the game. That might be the time to drop a hammer, give him a different look. It's not like he's not successful. It's not like, oh man, nobody else can run the ball except for Christian McCaffrey. Brian Robinson has a better yards per carry than Christian McCaffrey, right? Hand the guy the ball, and help keep your star fresh, because if you need to ride him that hard when it really matters, you need him to be healthy when it really matters late in the season, especially if you're going to get into a playoff game. And if all of a sudden week 17 he finally breaks down and the wheels come off, then what was the point of all those 30 touch performances throughout the season if he can't make it into the postseason? So I think you do have to be smarter. And as we know, I mean, we can talk about it every single week if we want. It's not the way that they're going to operate. So we can talk about it. It's not going to happen.
In the chat, Niner Nut says we're missing speed in the run game. You think that's something? Because I mean, Kyle Shanahan coming to the 49ers, we saw guys, Matt Breida, Raheem Mostert. There was a lot of speed. Now, prior to kind of that type of running back, and you go back to the Redskin days, right? They had Alfred Morris. Like, Alfred Morris was not a speed back. He was just more of a, at one cut, pick up, some yards, ran very well. I think he had a 1,600-yard season under Shanahan. But when we saw Matt Breida and you saw Raheem Mostert and you saw even when they got Jet McKinnon and what he was supposed to be for the 49ers, a lot of speed, not quite seeing the speed element from Brian Robinson or Christian McCaffrey. Do you think the 49ers are really missing that part of the run game? Because in this game, 17-yard carry, a 12-yard carry for Robinson, like those were the biggest carries of the game. We have seen, when Raheem Mostert and Breida were there, they were ripping off 80-yard runs, 60-yard runs, 50-yard touchdown runs, and you are not seeing that this year. They noted it on the broadcast, the longest carry of the season so far for the 49ers, 20 yards. That happened last week by Christian McCaffrey, and a lot of people attested to the run blocking ability of the line, but I've seen worse offensive lines for the 49ers and more explosive runs.
Oh, no doubt. It's 100%. Actually, you know what? I think it's a bigger conversation. Let's talk more about that in a second. I want to talk about speed on offense for the 49ers because I think it's absolutely something that you can see on the field. It's in the running game. It's in the passing game. And I saw recently some old clips that just kind of came across my my desk on whatever app it was. And it was some old Raheem Mostert. And it was like, whoa, that dude was fast. And it was different.
The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with this can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I want to bet in the moment, whether it's building a same-game parlay or jumping in live as the action unfolds. I love the futures. Have a lot of futures that I've already spent the money practically because I'm going to hit these futures in the NFL. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to your Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
The Panthers had a chance to take over sole possession of the NFC South lead heading into Thanksgiving, and instead the offense laid yet another egg.
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast.
The Carolina Panthers 9, the San Francisco 49ers 20, as the Panthers, I guess, weren't ready for prime time, losing an opportunity to take over sole possession of first place in the NFC South. The good news, I suppose, is that all they do is fall to 6-6. They're still right there in a battle between Tampa Bay for the division crown. But this one certainly was disappointing because of all the things we talked about throughout the week of how the Panthers offense finally looked like the offense everyone had been waiting for. The passing game that we saw back in week 18 in Atlanta, that we saw in the second half of the season, it had finally arrived and more. We all knew that 448 yards passing was not going to be the norm. That likely 300 yards passing was likely not going to be the norm. But going right back to this, I suppose we should have expected it. I did say that, if anything, last week was probably an anomaly from all that we had seen throughout the year from the passing offense here in Carolina. But the hope was that, all right, it's second half of the season. Bryce had his gutsiest, his best performance of his career. Maybe this is him finally turning the corner. Maybe with T-Mac out there, with Xavier Legette finally got into his rhythm, with Jalen Coker back healthy, that this was going to be the time for this passing offense to take off in the final 7 games of the season. I guess not, because that is not what we saw today as the offense, quite frankly, they laid an egg. They were awful. And in a game where in the first half, 3 straight possessions, Brock Purdy threw an awful interception, and you could only muster 3 points. 3 points on 3 takeaways in the first half. And not just 3 points, they had 3 first downs total, y'all, in the first half, 72 yards. That is the lowest total yardage in a half so far this season, whether it's first half, second half, the lowest. And this is the 6th time, by the way, they've had less than 100 yards total yardage in a half this season. That is so bad. 3 first downs, 3 points. And we talked about this on Friday. The Niners were a team that had 15 turnovers like Carolina. They actually had a -5 turnover margin heading into this game, which was worse than Carolina's -4. Brock Purdy had 5 total turnovers in 3 starts this season. He is not taking care of the football. So this was an opportunity to where the defense absolutely could have done what they did. And what the offense needed to do then was capitalize, which they were not able to do. After that first interception, which, mind you, comes off of the first drive that Carolina had. Dave Canales had a decision on 4th and 4, near midfield to go for it. He decides to punt the ball. ESPN's analytics are saying to go for it. Troy Aikman and Joe Buck are both there on the broadcast saying to go for it. He decides to punt. It works out for him because J.C. Horn gets an interception. Fantastic play, ripping away from Juwan Jennings, and Bryce Young, the Panthers offense, is set up in plus territory. They get into the 2-yard line. It's first down and goal. You have an opportunity to hand the ball off. Instead, they drop back. Bryce is looking for Mitchell Evans. Possibly, had he thrown the ball earlier, he could have hit Mitchell Evans. But Jair Brown sitting there the whole time watching him. Bryce throws it. It gets intercepted, and the Panthers come up with nothing when they had an opportunity to tie the game at 7-7. But do not fret, because Brock Purdy throws another interception on that next drive, and the Panthers go promptly 3 and out. Tedero McMillan with an egregious drop. Had a couple of those today. That's been a problem for him this season. A bad drop, but you're only down 7-0 at that point in time, and it's not ideal, but at least when that interception occurred, you weren't in plus territory. J.C. Horn gets another interception of Brock Purdy, who is, I don't know, just laser focused on his receiver, Ricky Pearsall, at that point in time. JC reads it perfectly, intercepts him. Panthers once again set up in plus territory. Bryce able to dump it off a couple of times to Chuba Hubbard, gets into the red zone, and they get nothing out of that. An interesting 3rd down call there by Dave to throw it out to the flat. That's a loss of yardage for Chuba. They settle for a 25-yard field goal. 3 takeaways, 3 points. That's just not going to get it done at any level of football, especially when you're playing on the road in prime time against the Niners. And this may not be the vintage Niners team that we've seen in the last couple of years because of the banged up guys they have, like Fred Warner not playing in this game, Nick Bosa not playing this game. Either way, that's still a team that was beatable today because their quarterback was awful. Brock Purdy has not looked good this season. The numbers, we went over this the other day, when you look at Mac Jones and Brock Purdy in this offense, they're slightly better with Brock, but Brock is turning the ball over. And anytime tonight, at least when it started off, he was throwing the ball 15 plus yards down the field. He was throwing it to the other team. And all you could do was get 3 points. 3 first downs in 72 yards. In the passing game, reverted right back to what we've seen all season long. Bryce Young, 18 of 29 for 169 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. The first one clearly on Bryce. The second one, they were saying it on broadcast, and I didn't even see it in real time, but upon further review, very clearly, T-Mac is getting held there, and that should have been a holding. If the ball was not out, if the ball was out already, that's a pass interference. Like, that has to be called. And that is a play that certainly decides the game potentially, because Carolina could have maybe kicked a field goal, as they opted to do later on from 57 yards. Talk about that momentarily. They could have kicked a field goal, got the ball back, and had their opportunity to potentially tie the game. But instead, it's 49ers ball, and that's one less opportunity Carolina has to put points up on the board. Now, the game was lost, though, in the first half, when they converted 3 interceptions into 3 points. Like, you cannot win football games that way. And we saw that. And we talked about throughout the week, was last week a mirage? Was it just a 1-week thing? And this was not going to be any sign of what's to come. It certainly feels that way after what we saw today. And if you look at the Falcons' passing totals that they've allowed the quarterbacks this season, it shows you that, especially for that secondary, what happened last Sunday, it ain't the norm. Baker Mayfield had 167 yards against them. J.J. McCarthy, who is god-awful, had 158. Bryce Young, first time around, the Panthers offense really wasn't good in that game, had 83 yards total in the second half, had 121 yards. Marcus Mariota had 156. Josh Allen had 180. Daniel Jones had 152. Tua Tagovailoa had 205. Oh, sorry, that's Mac Jones, rather, had 152. Tua Tagovailoa had 205. Drake May had 259. Daniel Jones had 255. Bryce, 448. Tyler Shuck this past Sunday, 243. So over the last 5 weeks, the passing defense has not been as good in Atlanta, but you see all those numbers. Only one of them has a 4 at the beginning, and that was last Sunday down in Atlanta.
The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with this can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I want to bet in the moment, whether it's building a same-game parlay or jumping in live as the action unfolds. I love the futures. Have a lot of futures that I've already spent the money practically because I'm going to hit these futures in the NFL. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to your Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast.
Lance, we know that the overarching story, obviously, from this game is Shedeur Sanders, how he played, the fact that he's getting another chance to start here. I guess I'll just start with just kind of the blanket question of, as you watch this game unfold, as I'm sure you went back and watched a little bit. I know technical issues have been the theme of our night here as we got ready to record this. But the All-22 didn't come out to like later on, so you didn't get a chance, I know, to dissect the All-22 in depth. But what did you notice about Shedeur's first career start, and how would you? What kind of overall grade would you give him overall?
Well, it always comes down to winning to me, and I've said that to you before. So that's, whether I think he played well or poorly, the bottom line is they won, and I think that's got to be into the evaluation as well. I don't think developing guys is really what a head coach does during the season. I think they got to play the best guys. But besides that, I thought he did really good. The thing that he does, he brought great poise and he created an energy. And sometimes quarterbacks need to do that. And sometimes, and once again, I don't think this is all Dylan's fault, but for some reason they were stale. And they were stale when he was in the game. And Shedeur, if you look at how good this defense was, he didn't play great. He also didn't play terrible, but he made enough plays and he stretched the ball downfield. He made some really poor decisions as well. But I just thought his overall ability to make a big play when needed. And I thought one of the things I was going into last week is his ability to make the guys around him play a little bit better. And they did. Isaiah Bond had a big catch. Samson looked like for the first time, he was a guy who was lightning in a bottle and fanning and, things like that. I still think Njoku needs to get more involved, but, just that I thought he brought great energy, great poise. He made some plays when they were necessary. And this is a game he didn't have to throw the ball, whether he was a starter or not. So he did a great job of managing the game. And then when his number is called to, have to win it, which will, happen as well, hopefully he's prepared for that as well.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I know we don't have any specific plays that we can get into in terms of just breaking down the X's and O's here this week. But what did you like about, I think first and foremost, the play that he had to Isaiah Bond, the one that everyone's gushing over, the one that had Myles Garrett's jaw on the floor on the sideline, they flashed to him during the game. What did you like about that play specifically, and how it was something different, right, than what we've seen from this offense so far this season, the ability to take a shot downfield like that and make a throw on the run after eluding some pressure? I mean, we haven't seen that all year from this team. Just what kind of unfolded on that play that you liked about it?
Well, it ends up being just a levels concept, and you can get to it a bunch of different ways. But the thing that I really liked, he does, that's his strength. He throws a really catchable football, and he does not have elite strength, but he's got plenty of arm strength. So he's not a guy who's going to rocket it through. But what he does is he anticipates very well, and he throws a very catchable ball. If you look at some of those swing passes or the route to Fannin in the flat, he throws some really nice catchable footballs, which I think is important. The thing I like most about that play is I haven't, like I said, all 22 is what I'll get into tonight, but they brought a 5 or 6 man pressure, but they had a free runner. And the thing that I liked about it, and I can't wait to break it down, is he knew where the free runner was coming from, which tells me he knew where his protection was missing. He knew where they were down a man based on the alignment, which tells you that he really understands what's going on. And the idea that, when he came out of college, he didn't understand what was going on. That wasn't right. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's a very intelligent young man. He just has never had time. So he reacts and he understands. And I thought there'd be some snaps of empty, which there were, because he does a good job of seeing what he sees. But that play in particular just ends up being a levels concept. He gets outside the pocket and then just throws an absolute strike to Isaiah Bond, who was at the top level of that particular play.
Yeah, I think that's well said in terms of just like him and making that play and his ability to do those types of things. How much did you notice, Lance? Because I felt like this was something that was noticeable in watching the game. How much did you notice like Shedeur sort of learning as he went and like the real-time development? And what I mean by that is one of the biggest things with him coming out of college was drifting in the pocket, right? We talked about that a ton. And how that would become a problematic thing when you're drifting further back, and then a sack for just like -3 turns into a sack for like -20, and it was a problem. And he did that in the preseason, right? And then he did that a little bit against Baltimore, and it cost him. But how much did you notice like something like that not being part of his game, and him actually sort of learning as he went? I got to step up in the pocket and not doing the things that were so as much of the things that were problematic for him on his tape coming out of college. Because I think that's as important as ever when it comes to evaluating a guy and how they're able to learn as they go, especially when the real bullets are flying.
Well, once again, and I agree with the evaluation part, but the big thing whatever we talk about is they won. And that's the most important thing. And I stand by that. So because he made other guys play better. And even though he didn't play, he completed 11 passes. Yeah, and it wasn't fantastic, but he made everybody else around him. And when you make big plays, like you were saying, the defense got more amped up, and there's a complementary football. There's also energy, and he brings a really kind of a aura to him. So that's important. You did see him learning that stuff. The one that he threw to Judy that he fumbled. I can't wait to break that down. I don't know if he needed to leave the pocket on that particular play, but it was a great play. But those are the type of things that, that's what you want to see moving forward. Now, I will say this, Spencer, the thing that's going to be interesting is that he's really seen a bunch of blitzes and a bunch of things in his face. Now there's film on him. So now it'll be interesting moving forward, just like it was with Dylan. And as I said with Dylan, for me, it's not about who's the quarterback, it's what the quarterback does. And now this is the same thing for Shedeur. If you were to say, how did he play? I thought he did some really nice things. That being said, everybody's telling him how good he is now. Now you have to come back, just like when you play bad, how do you do when you play well, which he did? But the most important thing is now they have film on him, and now they're going to take some things away from him. So his footwork is going to have to continuously be good. He's going to continuously, sometimes his footwork just makes him off balance and he's unable to drive the ball. So that'll, once again, and if he plays bad, you want him to see him respond from that as well. So again, he made enough plays to win, and that's the most important thing. To play to Bond, the play to Judy, that was a fumble. He threw some really nice balls to Fannin, the check down, the swing route. Everybody's like, oh, he only threw it 5 yards. I will tell you this, and every quarterback will tell you that the swing route could be a really tough throw, depending on who's throwing it, just because you don't know where the guy's, if he's flat, if he's back. So it's a harder throw than people think. But yeah, I think he did learn, and we'll see moving forward because now there's tape. And once there's tape, you have to take the next step. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. And once again, you hope they have the energy they had. That looked like a different football team with the same players, and that has a lot to do with him.
And by all accounts, Shedeur has put in the work behind the scenes, and he is dedicated to his craft, and he's dedicated to trying to be great at this position. That's been, I think, on full display. And so I think, to your point on, what does he do now that he's, getting hyped up and everyone's talking about him and he's got I think his work ethic continues. So Lance, just in exit here for this first part of the conversation, you mentioned winning being the most important thing. Are you okay? Are you comfortable? And this is also, keep in mind, for those of you who listen to the show regularly, Lance is somebody who evaluated Dylan as somebody that he liked coming out of college, and he was happy to see him continue to kind of get a chance here to see what he could do. Are you okay with Kevin Stefanski opting for sticking with Shedeur moving forward, given what you saw this weekend, to try to sort of continue to maximize maybe the extra energy that he brought to that side of the football?
Well, first and foremost, as you know, he won. That's so yes, he deserves another start. But secondly, what you're saying, that energy and the ability to make others have energy around him, that's important as well. And, sometimes this is not all Dylan's fault. But sometimes when you make a change at quarterback, a guy has a different energy. And that's what happens with quarterbacks now. We'll see what happens. He's still as they mix up man and zone and blitzes and stuff, he has a learning curve, and it might not be the rest of the year, but what you saw for me from a very stale offense is, once again, it goes down to good quarterback play. He made some really good quarterback plays that helped them win that football game, and I think that's important when you're 2-8. And once again, it's not all Dylan's fault, but they didn't have it. He wasn't making a lot of impact plays. Shedeur, whether you like it or not, made some really big impact plays, and now he's just got to continue to hit the layups and make sure he's protecting the ball and things of that. Nate, he had a couple that were, just learning curves, but yeah, I would say I totally understand the move, and I've had to make them before. And it's not always the quarterback's fault, but that's the best way you can kind of get some juice into your offense. And then when that guy comes in and makes some plays like Shedeur did, yeah, I think you gotta take a look at it with the idea that let him go through some highs and lows, and maybe you have to go back to Dylan, whatever it is. But if your goal is to win games and the guy you just put in won, then you got to take a look at him. Absolutely.
We're not done talking about Shedeur. We also got to talk some more about the offense and some other things that we noticed. But we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show, because next we got to talk about this defensive performance, Lance. 10 sacks, Myles Garrett now closing in closer than ever to setting or breaking the single-season sack record. Just a remarkable performance against the Raiders from them.